Well, folks, we finally made it through Hulkamania, my series of Hulk Hogan related videos this previous month. And now for the month of June, we're going to shift gears drastically to a bit more of an extreme flavor. We're going to look at some topics and classic pay-per-view reviews from the land of extreme, the original ECW, beginning with this classic event. I'm talking about Heatwave 1999 from July 18th at the Hara Arena in Dayton, Ohio. Second year in a row they did the show there. This show was nominated by Dan Galore and John the Wolverine over at patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. ECW in the summer of '99 is currently held together by two tentpole storylines. There is the feud for the World Television Championship between Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn, and then of course there's Taz's path of dominance as the World Champion. He won the belt back in January, he unified the World Championship and the FTW titles, and now he's just been on a path of rage, and there are people lurking in the shadows trying to knock him off. The show begins with a series of promos from the stars answering who the hottest star at Heatwave is going to be. We hear from Taz, Danny Doring, and Roadkill. We hear from Nova and Chris Chetti. And then there's Jason, the sexiest man on earth, who quite frankly has the best promo out of this series to start off. Now, I can't show you the entire clip because it's too long. YouTube would flag it for that reason, so can't show you the whole thing. But I will do the next best thing, and I'll just read you the promo verbatim because I think you really owe it to yourself to be aware of just the verbal mastery of Jason's promo here. So let's get underway with that. Quote, "I'll bet you're wondering who's going to be the hottest star at Heatwave 99. Well, it's going to be me, Jason, because tonight I'm going to beat a girl. And also because I am Jason, sexiest man on earth." Truer words were never spoken. Then we hear from the Dudley boys, Steve Corino and the gang, the Impact players. Good Lord, just watching back on Just Incredible promos from the last month of TV leading to this, Just Incredible's gimmick is so cringe. It does not age very well at all. But like, you look at the Just Incredible gimmick, and that was probably the most copied and emulated and just glorified type of gimmick you saw in like Backyard Feds, in E-Feds, and stuff of that time period, man. He was so quoted, the gimmick was considered so cool, and when I watch it back now, I'm like, you know what? It just hasn't aged very well. I just don't see it. Younger me would have seen it, but not right now. 3,400 folks in attendance, a hair under 100,000 pay-per-view buys makes this the most bought ECW show of all time. Joey Styles is your one-man booth tonight, for now at least. Opening match sees Danny Doring and Roadkill with Angelica, the future Lita, taking on Chris Chetti and Nova. Danny Doring has some stuff to say to open the match here, introducing his lovely lady who he describes as pure and chaste, and everyone, including Joey Styles, has a good laugh at that. Doring proposes to her and she accepts to a chorus of "She's a crack whore" chants. Who's got the ring? Roadkill has the ring. It's a condom, and Danny slips it on her finger. Can you believe this was not cut from Peacock? We get Nova and Chris Chetti, who's sporting a new look, and Joey Styles is absolutely flabbergasted at Chetti's transformation here. He's so outlandish compared to the straight-laced, quiet Chetti of old, but he spends too much time grandstanding and a hot dogging and is taken out on the ramp with his own cane. The match starts out hot and heavy, some good double-team moves on Nova here. Doring is just bouncing off the walls for his attacks in this one. Nova with the spin doctor, a different version of roll the dice or crossroads. There's a hot tag to Chetti. He goes on a great run. The axe kick, the power slam. Nova with a cool stunner DDT combo on both his opponents. A double team by Doring and Roadkill backfires. Nova monkey flipping Chetti into the other team. That was pretty cool. The figure four is broken up by dueling top rope leg drops. Chetti with a sensational double springboard moonsault, but he stops what he's doing. He grabs the mic and says it's time to dance. Cue Livin' La Vida Loca. Chetti dancing the night away here. Angelica comes in, wants to dance with him. Nova breaks up the moment. Angelica slaps, and look at that follow through. Chetti hits the Amityville Horror on her, which gets a big pop. Doring and Roadkill go for the finish. Chetti kicks Roadkill off the turnbuckle. Nova hitting the Kryptonite Crunch, then the Amityville Horror, then the Tidal Wave to win. I give it 2.5 stars out of 5. This was your typical way to open an ECW pay-per-view around this time. Just very spot heavy, not a whole lot of story behind it, kind of multi-man match. And these guys definitely delivered in that. Watching this match, I could definitely see like a link between, okay, here's this kind of match, this style, and like the super indie style that we see today, but I think it's a lot more refined today than it was back then, because then it was just big spot, big spot, big spot. And yeah, it's still very much like that today, but I feel there's better pacing now for the most part than what we saw in this one. I normally don't make a big deal of like the silly things in matches like this, like the dance break and stuff, but that one legitimately took me out of the match. I was enjoying Chetti's hot tag, and then he just stops what he's doing to do the dance off. I was like, okay, fine, I get it. It's silly ECW stuff, but at that moment though, I was like, I wish you just kind of kept wrestling. Well, at the top of the show, Jason did say he was going to beat a girl, but what a tall task ahead of him as he takes on Jazz, making her in-ring debut. And in fact, it's the debut of her using that name, because for the months leading into this match, she was known, well, first she didn't have a name or any kind of identifier, and then for a while she was called a woman scorned, because for the 8 months leading up to this, she was part of the Just Incredible entourage, doing a lot of the dirty work and interfering in matches and stuff, but they always wanted her to be kept to the back burner and never wanted her acknowledged. They didn't want anyone to know her name. Finally, she's had enough. She's taken it out on Jason, and we're getting this intergender match. Jason starts things off by giving Jazz a kiss. He deflects her offense, catches her in midair, and just slams her hard in the corner. He's being very disrespectful here. Jazz makes a comeback and slams him, a big cross body, the leg sweep, and I love that it made that guy in the front row jump out of his seat. We get a standoff. Jason is a bit taken aback by all this. He takes back over, wrestles fairly straightforward from this point on. Jazz keeps coming back as Joey bluntly says on commentary, she's not winning this match. Jazz refusing to stay down though. She takes Jason down with a suplex and a Samoan drop. Not enough though. She headbutts the groin and brings in a couple of chairs. The Dick Chairto in the corner. Jason goes for the powerbomb on a chair, but Jazz counters into the Jazz Stinger, the cover, and the win. I give it 2.5 stars out of 5. I don't mean this is a knock, but this was a pretty basic match, but the circumstances made it a bit different. And I think that when you tell a story, when there's a basic story and you tell it really well, I'm going to give it more props. I really did enjoy this match, watching it in the moment. I think it told a great story because of just how much of a prick Jason was leading up to all this and in this match. Jazz winning felt cathartic. The crowd was totally into it. It was executed very well. I don't think there were any botches really to speak of in this matchup. And yeah, great showing for Jazz here. Of course, she would go on to have a very lengthy, successful career that only just recently wrapped up. So this is kind of the humble beginnings of Jazz as in mainstream American wrestling. Joey Styles is joined henceforth by Cyrus, who writes his own name into the format sheet. Then we get Little Guido with Big Sal E. Graziano versus Super Crazy, another entry in just that insane, seemingly endless three-person feud that also involved Yoshihiro Tajiri. We'll be seeing him later in the night, but this match between these two guys here is very much of a similar vibe. Starts out with some fast back and forth, Crazy going for the handshake. Guido hits the knee instead. Great counter to the crossbody into the armbar. These guys just bouncing off the ropes like madmen here. Later, Crazy with the corner punches. Guido trying some of his own, but he takes a powerbomb instead. Sal with the trip, but he walks away and totally misses Guido flying to the outside, so he can't break his fall. Fighting in the crowd now, Crazy with moonsaults all over the place out there. One off the balcony. Guido makes his way back in the ring. Crazy going for a springboard, flying nothing, but Guido hits him. Comes back and throws Crazy outside. Sal smooshing him with the referee distracted. There's a gross thud when they hit the concrete. Back in the ring, Crazy runs to the top rope, but Guido pulls him down with a powerbomb. There's a kick out, more double teaming, more big moves. Crazy keeps kicking out, goes for a moonsault but gets none of it. The chants toward Guido have gone from "Where's my pizza?" to "Little Caesar." Crazy going for his triple moonsault, but on the third one he slips a little bit, then dives onto Sal before the crowd can turn on him. Guido gets back on top for a moment, but Crazy hits the Tiger powerbomb and stacks him up to win. I give it 3.5 stars out of 5. This is a wild match. It was just frenetic, fast-paced. I love the work these two guys did. They're working all over the place here, not just in terms of the caliber of moves they used, but also exploring the space around them. Super Crazy's big moonsault dive off the balcony was pretty cool. Some pretty innovative stuff here, great back and forth. And you know what? I make fun of the number of times like these two and Tajiri have been just intertwined with each other, especially during this time period in ECW. But it's not like they had bad matches. They were never stinkers, and this one was probably not their best encounter, but it was up there, I would say. It was pretty darn good. ECW is coming to TNN beginning August 27th. Best of luck to them. On we go now to the ECW tag title match as the Dudley Boyz defend against Balls Mahoney and the black sheep of the Dudley clan, Little Spike Dudley. Now for months, Balls has been warring with the Dudleys over the tag titles, first with Axel Rotten, now with Spike, and then of course the big story with this and this chase is that the Dudleys have repeatedly powerbombed Balls through flaming tables in the build of this, so he is looking for revenge. Bubba and Devon join joined by sign guy Dudley and Joel Gertner, who's wearing full-on face bandages after barely being hit with a fireball the previous month. Then it's time for a moment that is definitely remembered more by fans than the match that immediately follows it. It's that promo, the infamous Bubba Ray Dudley Heatwave 99 promo. He uses a lot of colorful language to describe the men and the women in the crowd, dares someone in the front row to fight them, they steal a woman's drink, she spits on them, Bubba gets into it with a fan. There's actually a funny line by Cyrus here.
Come on, you fat balls, motherfucker! How did he know his name?
Well, as Bully Ray today might say, that's heat. Now, if you followed ECW and the Dudleys during this time, like, promos like this were fairly commonplace from them. Like, not the first time they would say or do things like this to get the crowd riled up. But for whatever reason, this particular promo has just more infamy than the other ones here. Probably because it is the highest profile one. It is on pay-per-view. All I'll say is, it's a good thing that promos like this aren't nearly as prevalent today. I'm not saying they're never done today, because some people will try and do stuff like this for the Heat Zors, but by and large, we have kind of grown past promos like this. I think it's better for the wrestlers and better for the fans. And then, of course, there's Joel Gertner with his own colorful introduction. Balls gets on the mic and declares that in this match, it's going to be a Dayton street fight and falls count anywhere. Okay then, Spike is soon thrown onto the entrance ramp. Balls goes for a chair attack. Bubba ducks and just blasts Balls with an ouch. He goes for Spike, but he ducks, hits a bulldog off the ropes, and on the ramp, he goes way up the ramp and runs at Bubba, who backdrops him into the ring. That was pretty funny. On the outside, Balls gets a lot of drinks handed to him so he can hit Bubba with them. Bubba decks the Balls with a Dudley Street sign, then dinks Spike with it. We get the cheese grater attacks, but Balls hits a super kick, then hits back with the cheese grater. A bloody Devon and Spike brawl through the crowd as all this is going on. Bubba and Balls make their way out there too, all leading up to Spike diving off the balcony into an abyss. We would get a better shot at the replay at the end of the show. The guys make their way back to the ring. Double corner punches leads to double power bombs. Dudley's worked them over until we get a double neck breaker, acid drop, and sidewalk slam in stereo, double kickouts. Let's just do that spot again, only now we have a double dick kick city added to it. Sign guy pulls the ref out before the 3 count. He and Gertner get taken out. Dudley's go for the 3D, but we get double roll-ups and double 3 counts. Balls and Spike win the match and the titles in a bit of an upset here. Bubba and Devon get back up and get their revenge with 3Ds to both men. Tables are brought into the ring, then out comes a lighter fluid. Tables are on fire. Bubba goes for his powerbomb on Balls but can't get him up. Spike goes through his though. Well, that was a bit anticlimactic. The former champs pose, but then Natural Born Killers blares over the speakers, and out comes New Jack himself. Out comes the Plunder, and down go the Dudleys. Great selling by Devon here. That vacuum cleaner shot though, good lord. The Dudleys powder, Spike and Balls get their moment to celebrate with the belt, and that's that. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. This match, it's not like a death match per se, but it's got the cheese grater stuff, which I could do without. But besides that, I think the story they told here was really well done. The ebbs and the flows, I think the timing and the pacing of what they did, especially in the first like 2/3 of the match, were pretty cool. The payoff at the end with Spike and Balls winning at the end in that kind of upset fashion, that was really cool and took me for a surprise. So that definitely made the match feel more satisfying in the end, even though Bubba and Devon got their heat back at the end. For New Jack to come back and kind of undo that and help the champs celebrate, I think, add to the moment. So yeah, it was a really good payoff to the story, and that really, to me, helps elevate the match. Up next, the chronically injured Tommy Dreamer and the head cheerleader Francine make their way to the ring. Dreamer talks about having just watched King of the Ring 99 and Bash at the Beach 99 respectively, and he basically says that ECW had the best show of the 3. He brings up ECW on TNN, which gets a TNN chant. It sounds like he's going to say something about his future, but then one of the most 1999 songs ever plays. It's Come With Me by Puff Daddy from the Godzilla soundtrack, and it's Steve Corino and his crew, Jack Victory and Rhino. Rhino just having recently debuted for ECW as a hired gun against Taz a couple weeks ago. Corino is kind of the chosen one by Cyrus here to take Taz down for the championship. Cyrus has been getting in Corino's head and kind of been playing both sides as Cyrus been. He's been trying to talk to Corino, trying to talk to Taz, trying to get them to egg each other on. And one of the recurring bits in this build between all 3 parties is all 3 of them will say to each other when the other person leaves, "You stupid son of a bitch."
Stupid son of a bitch. Oh, you stupid son of a bitch. I just thought you want to know that stupid son of a bitch, Corino. He's out there.
Corino calls Dreamer a 28-year-old has-been, brings up all that Tommy Dreamer's put his body through, and reveals that Dreamer's rehab is not going well and he'll need back surgery. He brings up how he used to respect Dreamer back when he wore suspenders because he was a wrestler then. He asks Dreamer if it was all worth it. He's screaming at Tommy, asking what's wrong with him. Dreamer just sits there and listens as Corino demands that Tommy lay down for him right now and pass the torch to him. Dreamer emphatically says he will not do the job for him, says he's been there 6 years as opposed to Corino's 4 months. He's one of the guys who paved the way for him. Corino starts attacking Dreamer and talking trash, screaming, "I don't think we have a pension plan. Where's your pride? You're nothing." This stuff is great, by the way. Steve's punches have no effect on Dreamer, who finally fires back. Francine gets in the ring, hits a Bronco Buster, then a swinging DDT. She covers and wins, and I guess this was a match, apparently? After the match, though, Tajiri enters the ring and beats up Dreamer. Tajiri is Corino's hired gun against Taz. He kicks Francine down, puts Dreamer in the tarantula as Victory gets up from the wheelchair. He and Rhino and Corino taunt a lot. Then it's Taz, the ECW World Champion. He makes his way out for his match with Tajiri. Cool moment here where Tajiri wants to break away from the tarantula to get to Taz, but Dreamer holds on to him even though he knows it's hurting him. And the look of panic on Tajiri's face as he can't break away from his own hold as Taz is barreling toward him is a really cool moment here. The title match is on now. Taz versus Tajiri. Tajiri starting off quick against Taz, hits a great Asai moonsault outside the ring, goes for another tarantula, but Taz blocks it and hits the Alabama Slam. Taz going on a big run, seems to have an answer for all of Tajiri's offense. A big Tazplex, but a couple of moments later there's an enziguri and both men are down. Tajiri with the stomps. He goes up top, but Taz catches him, hits another Tazplex, but everything is a Tazplex in this match. Tajiri with the kicks, and somehow Taz kicks out. Tajiri up top again, but gets pushed off onto the ramp and into Corino. Taz makes a beeline for Jack Victory, who we have seen walk despite being in a wheelchair. He's wheeled down the ramp, he hits the ropes, takes the wheelchair to the face. Taz with the sit-out powerbomb to Tajiri on the ramp. A table is set up back against the ring. Taz absorbing Tajiri's kicks, suckers him in for another kick, only to catch him and hit the capture suplex into the table. Taz goes back up the ramp and grabs some sort of cable or noose. Styles insisting on commentary the shot stay wide, so we don't get to see him strangle Tajiri with something while locking in the Kata Hajime. Tajiri taps, the referees break it up. It's sort of confusing, but the bottom line here is Taz wins and retains. I give it 2 stars out of 5. The match itself, Tajiri and Taz wrestled fine, but Taz is kind of limited in the whole, oh, he no-sells everything and is a badass. And that can kind of limit what goes on in the match itself. I think that the build for this on TV, to me, was more interesting than the match itself was. It just felt it was lacking in suspense. It felt like a different version of the match with Rhino on TV a couple weeks before, where it's like, oh, here's an opponent, but you know what's going to happen here. I thought the added, shocking moment of, oh my god, he's strangling Tajiri with whatever we can't see here, I thought that it was it didn't feel earned compared to, again, to how the match had been going and what the build was like. So yeah, it wasn't the best match in the world, but both guys, what they did individually, I thought was just okay. But as far as Taz's future goes, the next pay-per-view scheduled is Anarchy Rules, which I have covered before on this channel, so if you want to know what happens to Taz and the World Championship, you can watch that video right here. And now it's time for our main event, the latest chapter in the saga between Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn, as these two heated rivals become unlikely partners against the Impact players. That's Lance Storm and Just Incredible. These two, of course, Van Dam and Lynn, have been feuding for months. That's pretty much what defined ECW in '99, was their continuing feud over the World Television Championship. And even though Lynn never won the belt from Van Dam in this saga, he was elevated every single time. And this was really the series that really put Lynn on the map as the legend that he is today. I don't think the perception of Lynn would be the same if it wasn't for his series with Van Dam. Meanwhile, there's Storm Incredible, who've been taking over ECW and demanding respect as a tag team. In the most recent RVD Lynn match at Hardcore Heaven, Lynn broke his orbital bone, and it was Lance Storm who drove him to the hospital afterward. Now Storm is calling in a favor, tells Lynn to lay down for Credible so he can wrestle RVD for the title next. Lynn does not lay down for Justin. He wins another title shot, but the Impact players lay him out afterward. Lynn wants Van Dam to team up with him to take on their mutual enemies. Meanwhile, there's Bill Alfonso and Sabu, who don't want Van Dam to team with Lynn. And Bill Alfonso is going so far as to say he's not allowed to team with anyone else, which Van Dam takes offense to. He's like, hey, I don't like Jerry Lynn, but I also don't like being told what to do. So just to spite you, Bill Alfonso, and to get back at the Impact players, I will team up with Jerry Lynn. Hard hitting from the get-go between Credible and Lynn. Several pile drivers are attempted and blocked. Great sequence sequence until Lynn slingshots Credible out of the ring. Just incredulously tags out and avoids RVD some more. Storm and Van Dam with some amateur work with an unnecessarily shaky cam. Some more back and forth. Nice roll through by Storm into the Canadian Maple Leaf, but Rob bites out of it. Some more great work between Lynn and Storm. A kick out from the roll-up sees Lynn get face-to-face with Justin Singapore Kane, and the Impact players take over. Joey brings up on commentary how Justin and Jerry wrestled in singles action last year in the same building. Credible hits the outsider's edge on Lynn, a nod to his click buddy Scott Hall. Lance Storm with a chair in the top turnbuckle, springboards up to the corner, grabs the chair, turns around and gets drop kicked. What a freaking spot. RVD's tagged in, looks pretty darn good. Bill Alfonso stealthily placing a chair in the middle of the ring for RVD to do a very unnecessary flip in front of it before grabbing it. RVD with a spinning leg drop onto Storm on the outside. JL bulldogs JC onto the ramp. A table bridge has been set up now on the outside. RVD with a big old back bump off the top rope and onto the chair. Ouch. Spin kick off the top rope by Storm and a 2 count. RVD hits the move that would be called Rolling Thunder. Fonzie straight up hits Credible himself with a chair and puts him on the table. RVD sets up a chair. Then from out of nowhere, a wild Sabu appears, does the dive onto Credible. They cut the feed out though because apparently legally Sabu is not allowed to wrestle in America. He was famously stooged off to the Athletic Commission by the Impact players some time ago. So maybe this is their way of just getting around. Hey, he's not doing the move. You don't see him doing the move. So this is us skirting around the law. RVD inadvertently 5-star frog splashes Jerry. Lance tries to capitalize, but there's a kick out. The Van Daminator, a cradle pile driver. Lynn pins Storm and wins. After the bell, Sabu, RVD, and Lynn just all tear into each other. Everyone's going crazy go nuts as we get some highlights from earlier in the show, and the show goes off the air. I give it 4 stars out of 5. This is a great match, and the best match of the night, I think. These four in any permutation or combination, I think, at the time was pretty rad. I make fun of Justin Credible's gimmick, but I think he worked really well here with Storm and Lynn and Rob Van Dam. And Sabu getting thrown in there as well, which made things just more fun and frenetic. I thought it was a pretty strong main event, good story, and good to see, Lynn and RVD get that big win. The feud between Lynn and Van Dam would continue throughout most of the rest of the year, but unfortunately it was stopped prematurely when Van Dam broke his ankle and was forced to relinquish the television title. So whatever the payoff was going to be for that wasn't quite realized. My grade for ECW Heatwave 99 is a C+. There was a lot of good to be found in this show, but ultimately it was kind of unremarkable in certain ways. I think some of the things that the show's remembered for more are not good things to remember, like the Bubba Ray promo. In fact, I think there was a lot of promo time used on this show. For a pay-per-view where you're supposed to pay money and get mostly wrestling, between Bubba Ray's promo and the stuff with Dreamer and Corino, which was actually really good and I liked that a lot, still a lot of talkies for a pay-per-view, in my opinion. There were some good matches there. The main event, obviously, the tag title match, Little Guido and Super Crazy were probably your 3 strongest matches on this show. Everything else just felt like it was kind of there, just like it was, continuation of some TV storylines. I mean, to a lesser extent, Jason and Jazz was entertaining as well, but it wasn't like an earth-shattering match. It was like an above-average pay-per-view, I think, all told. It was, there were some parts that are definitely some big takeaways, but the whole show, a lot of it is kind of forgettable. Well, next time on the Classic Review, we stay in ECW, but jump 1 year ahead to the year 2000. It's a very different time, a very different company is ECW at this point. And I tell you what, Jerry Lynn may not be the world champion, but Justin Credible sure is. It's Hardcore Heaven 2000. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.